The deadlift is one of the most functional exercises on the planet. We're constantly bending, hinging, picking things up off the floor in our everyday lives. This exercise should absolutely be a part of everybody's training routines. However, it gets a really bad rap because people are constantly getting hurt because they're lifting beyond their means, they're lifting too heavy, and they're lifting with poor technique. So when the deadlift is performed properly, this is a fantastic exercise for building back strength, for building the hamstrings and building the glutes. So in today's video, I'm gonna walk you through the proper steps to performing the perfect deadlift. Let's go. Okay, the first thing that you need to know about the deadlift is that it is a hip hinge movement pattern as opposed to a squat movement pattern. So a hip hinge is that we're hinging at the waist. So we're pushing our butt back, slight bend of the knees, and hinging at the waist as opposed to sitting down and squatting straight up and down. So understanding that the deadlift is a hip hinge movement pattern as opposed to a squat is the first step in performing the perfect deadlift. Okay, let's get into the stance. So I want you to approach the bar. I want the bar 1 to 2 inches from your shins to start. So I do not want you all the way up against the bar, 1 to 2 inches from the shins, which is gonna place that bar right across the midfoot. Then I want your feet hip width. So this is a great place to start. The width may change depending on your body type, how long your legs are, and your hip mobility, but a great place to start is feet hip width. We're gonna have the toes pointed straight ahead. If you have some mobility issues and you're having a hard time getting down to that barbell with the toes pointed straight ahead, you can angle those toes out slightly, but not too far. And then lastly, we're gonna externally rotate the hips. So we never want our knees caving in at any point in time, so we're gonna externally rotate those hips so that we have a strong, solid foundation to deadlift on. Okay, so now we're gonna reach down for our barbell. We're gonna grab just outside of the leg, so hands are gonna be about shoulder width. As we hinge and bend down for that bar, you're gonna feel the shins make contact with the barbell, which is exactly what we want. We wanna maintain that contact, barbell against shins and against the body and tight to the body throughout the entire lift. So we're grabbing. The next thing we wanna do is pull the slack out of the bar. So if you guys hear that clank, that is pulling the slack out of the bar. Next, I want you to pull your chest up and pull your lats down and back. So notice my shoulder positioning here. Pull the lats down and back and pull the chest up to create full body tension and to set your back. Notice the spine. So I'm not cranking my neck like this. I'm keeping the spine neutral from the lower back all the way up through the neck. So pick a spot down and slightly in front of the body. We don't want to be looking through the legs. And again, we don't want to be cranked up here. And then lastly, the hip positioning. So when we're all set, we've created that full body tension. We do not want our hips down here. We do not want our hips all the way up here. We want the hips right in the middle, so hips just above the knees. Okay, so we're almost ready to start deadlifting, but before we do, we need to understand the bracing. So I want you to take a deep breath in and brace your stomach as if you were about to get punched in the stomach. So that's the sort of bracing that we need before we start pulling. So you take that deep breath in, brace and squeeze the core before you start pulling. The second thing, while this is a pulling exercise, I need you to be thinking about pushing your feet aggressively into the ground while you're simultaneously pulling that barbell up and off the floor. Okay, so now we're ready to start deadlifting. Let's go over our checklist. So feet are gonna be under the hips, toes pointed straight ahead. We're driving the knees outward. We're gonna pull the slack out of the bar, pull the lats down and back, and pull the chest up, keeping the spine neutral. We're gonna take that deep breath in. So we brace, we're gonna push our feet down into the floor as we pull. So as we pull up, we're keeping that bar against the shins and tight to the body throughout the entire lift. What's really important is that we keep our chest and hips rising at the same exact time. So chest and hips rise at the same exact time. Where people often go wrong is that the hips go first and then the chest goes. So we're putting all this into our back. So we need to make sure that our hamstrings and glutes are engaged and our back is tight, having the chest and hips rising at the same time. So we take that breath in, bringing the hips to neutral. So as we get that barbell over the knees, that's when we're gonna push our hips forward, bringing the hips to neutral. We do not wanna overextend at the top to squeeze your glutes at the top. Now, to return the barbell back down to the ground with a slight bend of the knee, we're gonna push our butt back, so we're gonna hinge at the waist. We're gonna keep the barbell in contact with the thighs and tight to the body. So we're gonna lower down. As soon as this barbell passes the knees, that's when we're gonna bend and then lower the barbell back down to the ground. Now that you can perform the perfect deadlift, let's talk about some ways you can modify or regress this exercise, because not everybody's gonna be able to barbell deadlift from the floor to start. Some people might have mobility issues, previous injuries, or whatever it may be. So what we can do is decrease that range of motion. So put the barbell up on some plates. So the higher the plates are, the less range of motion we'll have, making this exercise even easier. So start at a level that allows you to maintain good technique and perform the deadlift properly. Now, if you do not want to use a barbell, you just don't feel comfortable using a barbell, you can absolutely use kettlebells or even dumbbells instead and still get a ton out of the deadlift. And just like the barbell, we can also stack up plates. We can also modify the double kettlebell deadlift by placing these kettlebells up on plates, which is gonna decrease that range of motion and make this exercise a lot easier. So all the same principles are pretty much gonna apply, except for we're not gonna have the barbell up against the shins. So what I want you to do is have the kettlebells right about mid-foot, then set the lats, chest up, spine neutral, chest and hips rise at the same time, and then we lower down with control. Now to take it a step further, to regress it even further, what we can do is just use one kettlebell. So I find this much easier to teach, and obviously we can use much less loading on this, making it easier. So we'll get set up. Same technique principles apply. You can also stack this up. So using the one kettlebell, we can also stack that up on plates, shortening up that range of motion, making it even easier. Okay guys, there you have it, all the necessary steps to performing the perfect deadlift. Just like with any exercise, make sure that you're mastering the technique with very, very light weight before you start increasing the weight. Technique should always be the most important thing with any exercise that you're performing. If you guys like this video, make sure to leave a like, share this video with someone that you feel like might need it, subscribe to the channel for more tutorial breakdowns like this one, and until the next video, I'll talk to you guys soon.